lives.
It's the 8th of March, the year 2023. Good morning and thank you so much for joining us and also making time to be with us. This is your mid-morning pack show live right here on MBCI TV on this happy International Women's Day. And this is the subject that we are going to discuss today in details. Later on, we'll be having some guests who will help us to look at this matter in details. But of course, today we also having my colleague right here on this particular show, Bwana Paul Kagi. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mangicho?
Fine, thank you. Good to see you again this week.
Thank you. How has been your week?
Yes, it's been very fine.
Right.
And at least quite a number of things have been happening in the recent past in our country.
Correct.
Yes.
Good morning, dear viewer, wherever you are, and welcome to the mid-morning pack. This day, and as usual, we have lined up several issues for you. Our main issue is regarding the International Women's Day. But before then, we are going to check one or two things which has been hitting the headlines in the Republic of Kenya.
Sure. And we invite you, as we always do in this particular program, to interact with us, give us your opinions, give us your views on this particular subject. Today, the subject that we're going to discuss in details, like I had mentioned earlier, is the International Women's Day. And we just want to look at what are some of the strides that have been made by women in our country. What are some of the steps? What are some of the successes? What are some of the achievements that we've made, even as we celebrate the International Women's Day internationally? But when we come back right here in our country, in our 47 counties, what are some of the things that we can say have been achieved by our women? What are some of the challenges that they are going through, and what needs to be done to fix these challenges? Right, Kagi?
Yes, and of course we are also looking at the political class and the government at large, if they are going to achieve their promises regarding to ensuring that women are given their rights. For example, one gender rule, and other things that have been spoken about regarding to women. We know the Kenya Kwanza had promised to give a half of the CSCs and other positions to the women. And also we are waiting for the CS position to see whether this matter is going to be addressed amicably. Yeah.
We're talking about the issue of 2/3 gender.
Yes.
And this is something that has actually been of major interest, and for several years, whereby we've been pushing for it. Even when it came now to the 2010 Constitution, this is something that was supposed actually to be looked into even on matters law. But I think there is still a number of issues that need to be put into control, the political goodwill that needs to be looked into to ensure that some of these issues are actually taken care of.
Yes, and of course, as we know, is that women have been working so hard to ensure that this gap has been breached, and there has been a reluctance on the side of their male colleagues to be able to support them in any way, to be able to strengthen them either in leadership and other areas. But women are coming up strongly, and we know that, Mangicho, there are many women who have come out as members of parliament, MCAs, senators, even the governors, and they have really done a good job. Exactly. Whether they won the elections or maybe they came number 2 or number 3 is a clear indication that women are doing a good job to ensure that their space is being considered in our republic.
Yeah, sure, that's very true. Maybe some people would argue that the process is slow, but we've really seen a number of steps that are actually in the right direction, because if you were to look at the number of women who were elected governors in 2013 following the 2020 Constitution, and then looking at the number of those who have been elected in 2017 and those who have also been elected in the year 2022, at least there is something to smile about. The number has been increasing.
And the elephant in the room, Mangicho, remains the 2/3 gender rule, whereby the parliament, the current parliament, the previous parliament have been struggling to ensure that we have a 2/3 gender rule in our parliament and in the leadership positions. Even though it is in our constitution, it is becoming a huge task for us to be able to achieve this two-third gender rule.
Yeah, that is something that we'll want to look into. And of course, other than matters to do with the leadership, of course, we'll also look at other things and other areas of empowerment, looking maybe at women in education. This is something that has also been of major concern. When you look at women in education, are their rights really being looked into to ensure that they are also being given the equality that they need? We also look at issues to do with empowerment, economic empowerment. What is the space of a woman today as far as economic empowerment is concerned? And actually the theme of this particular year 2023, it has to do with matters women and being empowered digitally. Also in the use of technology to ensure that they also get the space that they need to rise up in the society. And
finally, Mangicho, I think one issue is need to be addressed is whereby women have really tried to take up the roles of to be in charge of their families, where men or husbands have really neglected their families, and they have no choice other than taking out roles of being in charge of their families. Mm-hmm. And we want to salute all women who have taken the responsibility, where men have really ran away from their homes. Okay. They have left their families, but women stand and say, no, my family is going to stand. My children are going to get education. They are going to have food. They are going to have shelter and clothing, and working day and night to ensure their children have and are receiving their basic rights. That's point on, and our viewer, you can expect much more on this particular conversation in a few minutes when we'll be joined by two guests. We'll be having, that is Cosmas Mutua, who is a director in Hope in Life, and also Gladys Cameron, who is the CEO or the Chief Officer, matters to do with the gender in the county government of Nakuru. Those two guests will be joining us, and they'll be trying to highlight quite a number of issues. And of course, this celebration is being marked in our country, in different counties, and there are a lot of activities just to ensure that matters to do with the women are actually being given the consideration that they deserve. And the question that we are asking you, you can begin to give us your views, your opinions, your perspectives during this particular conversation. You can interact with us on our shortcut platform, that is 23814. Catch us live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. The question we are asking, what steps should be taken to enhance women's rights in the country? What steps do you think need to be taken to enhance women's rights in our country? Continue giving us those particular feedback, and of course we'll be glad to sample a number of them as we continue with our conversation. But still, we still have other issues, Kagi, that have been making headlines during this past week. Yes, and one of the major issues that is at hand today, even for the last 1 or 2 weeks, is regarding the former CS for Internal Security, Mr. Matiang'i, who was yesterday interrogated by the DCI officers at DCI headquarters in Kiambu Road. And he had 8 hours being held before being handled by the DCI officers. Yes. And it was being mentioned by his lawyers that they had 15 minutes to be able to interrogate him. And it was a huge task for him. One of the dailies were today, they were saying that 6 months ago, he could be escorted to this office by a quite number of officers. But yesterday, he had to look for a way to come over to this office. And therefore, yesterday he had to go. He was being summoned by the officers regarding the allegations of maybe giving false information regarding to the raid in his home. And by yesterday, when they were leaving, we were informed that he is still waiting for information to be able to verify whether he is going to be charged and on what. Yeah, and of course, this is a matter that actually took the entire country by storm, and I think there was a lot of debate on it. There were mixed reactions on it, and there are those who are supporting what was actually happening, but there are those who are thinking that this was politically instigated. It's like maybe the Kenya Kwanza government, in one way or two, they want to show those who were in the previous government that they are now in charge. So maybe this is something that will continue to make headlines, and maybe even as we continue, we would want to see. But I think the most important thing is to ensure that the issue of politics should not actually come into place. Let the law take its course. Yes, it's not the first time when a government officer in previous government has been summoned to be able to look at one or two issues. As you're saying, the most important thing is to ensure that the law is taking its course. And personally, I feel more officers in the previous regime are going to be called upon to answer some questions regarding to maybe some things that were done not in the right way. I feel this is the beginning of much more to come. Yes.
Yeah, and it is also an indication that when you're a public servant, when you're holding a public position, when you're in the public office, it's very, very important. It's prudent for you to ensure that you do what is right. And of course, again, it's also very important for the government of the day to also ensure that it deals with matters that are of importance in the society. And in any case, or in any particular scenario, in any particular issue that they want to look into, it should be in the parameters of the law of the land.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that is one of the areas that has made headlines, and there is something else that has also caught the public attention, and that is a tweet that was actually made by the senator for Kericho County, that is Aaron Cheriot, regarding the media being what he termed as cartel. And this has actually fueled a lot of reactions from the public and also the Kenya media.
And I think if there is a word that is very irritating to every sector of fraternity, is to use the word cartel. I think that is why media is a bit mad with this word, to be called cartels. And it has really elicited a lot of reactions from the Media Council of Kenya, from the Editors Guild, and all the media practitioners. They feel the sentiments by Aaron Cheriot, they are meant to intimidate journalists, media, or also even to gang the freedom of media in our country. And it is not the first time when such things come up. I can remember very well, even when the Jubilee government was coming in place, there were a lot of maybe attack on media, and some media were invaded, whereby some media practitioners were being maybe taken away from their media houses, they were given other jobs. It is coming up again, and I feel that the Kenyan media is too strong that some people may feel they need to be ganged to be able to manage them and to control them. To avoid the issue of when something happens, they are very quick to be able to point out with a lot of boldness. And I feel Aaron Cheriot, as someone was saying, his sentiments cannot be taken lightly.
They cannot be taken lightly.
Yes, regarding his position in Senate, and also considering he's a close ally to President himself. Yeah,
that's very true. It's very disappointing. It's very frustrating that such kind of remarks would come from a leader of that kind of prominence, especially when we know that, and when we are alive and alert to the role that the media plays in any society. They're called members of the fourth estate, and we cannot really underrate or even undermine the importance of a free media, the importance of an independent media. And you know, when you're an elected leader, any statements that you make, there is a constituency that would want to take those statements, and they would really want to trust that is the voice, okay? They would really want to believe that that is how the situation is. So I think it is very significant, it's very important, it's very critical for leaders who are holding this kind of very powerful offices to ensure that any remarks that they make are remarks that should not be seen or should not actually even interfere with the independence of these institutions such as the media. In any case, if there are any complaints, I think there is a law. If you think that a particular media house, if you think a particular journalist maybe has offended you or maybe has not followed the law in the way maybe they've been handling quite a number of issues, I think there are some steps that need to be taken. But just going outside there and making remarks in such critical platforms like the Twitter, that is very unfortunate.
And Mangicho, one question that is lingering in my mind this morning is that Honorable Cheriot, after talking about media as a cartel, I don't know whether anybody has followed it up to be able to understand how is media cartel. You know, everybody is silent on this. Even though people are not happy with this term, I think it would be even prudent for us to be able to understand how curtail.
Yes.
How.
Yeah, because it's very important that when you make such a statement, you should be in a position to corroborate or to actually have evidence.
Yeah, because maybe we could have some cartels in media, and if we just leave it open like this, it's also good to follow up to see whether we have these cartels in media industry.
Yeah.
If maybe they are there, they can be able to be followed up. Yeah.
And you know, of course, when such leaders begin to make statements like this, there is always the concern. Is it that maybe they fear that maybe there is something that has been happening, there's something that maybe they would want to do, and they fear that maybe the media would bring it to the limelight. Anyway, in a short while, we'll be bringing our guest. But Kagi, there is one more news right here I'm seeing, and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education matters to do with the junior secondary. They're saying things are not right.
Yes, and KUPPET is cautioning that there is need to be able to abolish the junior high school. They are saying it was not effective. There are no teachers, there are no equipments, and even there are no even money to be able to support the system. And they are feeling that they need to sit down with all the stakeholders in the education sector to be able to look for a way. Maybe they are saying if not abolishing the junior high secondary school, they can be able to move it from primary to high school. But they're feeling that things are not okay.
And of course, this is going to be, this is a news item, or actually this is information that is quite disappointing, especially for the millions of Kenyans, because we are talking about this, and you're almost coming to the close of the first term. So when you're being told that things are not happening well, or things are not right in the junior secondary that, of course, have been domiciled in our primary schools.
Yes.
So one tends to wonder, so what have our children, what have our peoples been doing for the last, 2 months?
Yeah, and I think so far there has been a reduced noise regarding to the CBC, but the noise now is towards the junior high school. And I think it's good to listen to these guys, yeah, to be able to check on the issues that are at hand. If our children are not being taught, then there's something that is not going right here.
Yes.
And it's good to listen to KUPPET. And I feel the Minister for Education, or CS for Education, should come up and with speed to be able to look at this matter, because it is going to come out of our hand. And if we don't do that, we are going to waste our children's time. We are going to waste even our resources trying to implement a system which is not promising.
Yeah, when you talk about matters of education, these are matters that are very paramount in the country, and our children depend on education for their future. Okay, we can actually say their destiny is actually on education, and therefore I think it's important. All the stakeholders, if there is a crisis, I think everything else must actually be looked into in relation to what is actually happening in our schools, because this is something that most people have actually been arguing. I'm told by my director we have some few seconds to bring our guest to look into the matter to do with International Women's Day. But I think, Kagi, later on we'll come back with you, and there is a story that has actually hit both headlines today on the controller of budget. Kagi will look into that when you come from this particular short break. You're still watching MBCI TV, the Mid-Morning Pack.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Without wood, a fire goes out. Proverbs 26, verses 20. Welcome to the March Prayer Festival, where we will be keeping the fire burning and spreading the fire starting from Monday 6th to Sunday 12th March 2023. The meeting will be hosted by Apostle John Kimani William. The venue will be at the Harvest Cathedral, and the Church Without Walls live on Facebook at Apostle John Kimani William, and on YouTube at Apostle John Kimani William Official. The meeting will also be live on MBCI TV and radio. The Morning Glory services will be live from 5 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Lunch hour services from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. There will also be a Friday Kesha live from 9:30 p.m. The meeting will be climaxed by a rally on Sunday at 3 p.m. Join us as we keep the fire burning and spreading the fire. It is an interdenominational meeting, free and open to all.
Today we are going to prepare mushroom soup.
Mushroom soup served with?
Buttered cassava.
Buttered cassava.
Yes. Now you add milk. You pour milk slowly by slowly.
Oh, so that's why it's called the white sauce?
Yes.
Pia milk iko na kipimo ama?
It is according to the wheat flour ambayo uliweka. You add the bechamel sauce.
Okay.
Now our mushroom soup is ready to serve, and you serve while it is hot.
Okay.
Yes.
Soup isiserviwe ikiwa iko baridi.
Ikiwa baridi.
Okay.
Are you looking for a reliable retail and wholesale hardware store that is able to deliver quality and affordable products at your site? Shirdi Trading Stores Limited has been your hardware of choice for more than 12 years, serving the people of Nakuru with excellence and quality products. Our products include all kinds of chuma, hollow sections, black pipe, furniture pipe, round bars, square bar, deformed bars, MS plates, checkered plates, galvanized plates, H-beams, flat bars, angle bars, roofing sheets with special lengths, marine boards, cement, tank of all sizes, etc. at affordable prices. We also organize transport for our clients. Our main shop is located at Nakuru Eldoret Highway, Shabab Roundabout, opposite Total Petrol Station, while the distribution center and godown is located at Industrial Area opposite Kenya Power Depot. For more information, call us on 0711 600 101 or 0735 600 101, or you can use 0701 600 101. Shirdi Trading Stores Limited. We are your construction partner. Customer satisfaction is our first priority.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
You're welcome back. You're still watching us right here on MBCI TV. The program is the Mid-Morning Pack. Happy International Women's Day, and as we'd promised, this is one of the topics that we want to look into. We want to celebrate this particular day and also look at how or where are we when you talk about the achievements that have been made as far as women's rights, the place of women in the society and also in our country is concerned. What are some of the challenges? What needs to be done even to make the place of woman more better? And of course, to help us now get into the heart and to the soul of this particular discussion, I have two guests that have already joined us here in the studio, and they will be very instrumental in helping us to look into this particular area in details. The guest that we are having is Gladys Kamuren, who is the Chief Officer matters to do with gender and social services in the county government of Nakuru. Karibu sana, good to have you today.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and I'm also being joined by Mr. Cosmos Mutua, who is the Director, Hope in Life. Karibu sana, good to have you again.
Thank you.
Yes, karibuni sana, and we are really looking forward to have a very interesting conversation as we look at this particular subject today. Remember, the question that we are asking you, what steps should be taken to enhance women's rights? What steps need to be taken to enhance women's rights? Make sure that you give us your opinions, or make sure that you give us your feedback on 23814. That is our shortcut platform. You can also catch us live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV official. Maybe just to set us into some context, Gladys Kamaren, karibu sana. Just in a nutshell, what is the significance of this day?
Thank you very much, Mola. The significance of this day is that it is bringing women together. It is kind of making women feel appreciated in the society. It is bringing women to discuss their own issues, their own plight in the whole world, not just Kenya. And it's a day that women really look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important there. And of course, when I know it is a day that we are celebrating internationally, so every other place or every other country in the world. But according to you, back here in Kenya, what are some of the major things that you think we are celebrating today as we mark this particular day?
We are celebrating leadership, women leadership, that we have, especially in Nakuru County, where almost out of 11 we have, or 15 we have women, almost half of it, or even more than half. We are celebrating, that is women empowerment as well, because as we stand, it shows that Nakuru women are empowered. Okay. So we have the governor of Nakuru is a woman, we have the senator, a woman, we have women rep, we have 5 women MPs. So we have actually broken a record in this country, because people now call us Nakuru girls. Nakuru girls. And when we come to the county, yes, the setup of the cabinet, we have women also almost commensurate to the number of men. So Nakuru County, we are really celebrating because we can see that we are empowered compared to other counties. Yes.
Let me bring Cosmos Mutua, the Director, Hope in Life, into this particular conversation. Mutua, when you hear Gladys saying that this is a day, especially in our country, Kenya, and even maybe in a county like Nakuru, we are actually looking at the milestones that have actually been made, especially in regards to the election and even to the appointment of women. What are some of the changes do you think some of these milestones have brought to society?
I think women empowerment is very key, and as an organization, we really champion for matters of women and girls empowerment, because we believe for many years it has been taken like leadership belongs to men. But we've seen women really doing very well in terms of leadership, in terms of development and all that. So I think that's a great milestone, and we are looking forward to having greater changes. And also, as an organization, we champion what we call the equity. Equity is about bringing also a law to a level whereby they are able to enjoy the fulfillment of rights, and also they are able to enjoy life. So I think that's a great milestone, and it has taken many years for us talking about women and girls empowerment because of the inequalities that have been there. So I think this is a great milestone. And as a country and as a county, we look forward to having great milestones in terms of development to ensure that everyone enjoys their rights. Because even when you look, I'm not a preacher, but when you look in the book of Genesis, after everything was created, God said, and everything was good. So these things, we are the ones who brought these inequalities and the rest. And I don't remember anywhere in the Bible where Adam and Eve were trying to look down on each other's rights. So I think this is something very timely. We need to empower women to be able to enjoy and participate in matters development, socio-economic development, just as women enjoy. Thank you.
So does it mean, before I come back to Gladys, does it inform us that now the society maybe has changed in terms of the mindset, in terms of those perceptions that maybe used to be there previously about the place of a woman as far as leadership is concerned?
That is true, because you find many years ago you could find that women used to vie for position, but they were not making it. Okay. But we are seeing more women being elected, not even nominated or special elect. We are seeing more women vying for active positions and getting elected. So I think the society is slowly by slowly, we are not yet there, but we are doing well. And we've realized that even women can participate in leadership. They can be leaders and great leaders like just men. Thank you.
Yeah, and what are some of those gaps, Gladys, that you think now have been filled in the process of now helping the society to begin to appreciate that a woman can as well get the place that they deserve?
Thank you very much. When we achieve leadership as women from the top, then it trickles down to the lower level. In terms of now, like I am the CEO, Gender Services, Gender and Social Services. So as a woman, I will also try to look into issues that are affecting common women. I will look into, though I am all-rounded, but I'm also very keen now on issues that touch on women, issues that, you know, when I talk of a woman starts from even a baby girl. That's a woman, from inception. So this issue of rape, as it has been happening, it has happened, and nobody is really caring about. So when I am in position, when my governor is the leader of the county, then we will give it a very, very serious, we give it serious conversation, we give it serious attention, and we will look into it. Unlike when it was a male-dominated leadership. So we are filling the gaps because right now we are thinking of how we can make other women get empowered, how we can nourish the businesses of other women, how we can bring changes in terms of laws that are affecting women positively. And as we speak, even when we are 2 months old, but we have come to power, and we are, I'm not really saying to power, but to service. And we have seen issues that have been pending, like the gender bill, the county gender bill that has been lying for quite some time. We are able now to push through the county assembly. This gender bill is that is now going to help us mainstream gender in our county. So you see, if it was men, and now we have even the county assembly MCAs or member of assembly who are women and in good number. So these are some of the challenges that we have been facing. When we take to the county assembly, the men cannot understand clearly what it's all about. So they keep on saying, now you are bringing us women issues here. But because there are women who understand these issues, who connect to the bill, then I see now the gender bill going through. So we really influence in a great way when we are leaders. Yes,
so is it Gladys, is it just a matter of having more women in these offices, having more women being appointed and also being elected? Or what is also the place of now also helping, like you've mentioned, some of the men that have also been elected into these offices, the challenge of them really not understanding what you're fighting for? In as much as we want to ensure that the numbers of women continue to grow in the appointive seats and also in the elective seats, but also changing also the perspectives of the men that have been elected to accommodate the women.
We are still behind. We are not saying we have gone very far, but we are starting a journey that we are walking as women, and it's very positive beginning. So our intention is to make awareness even within the male-dominated leadership, so that they look at women in a different way they've been looking at. So we are actually going to influence even those we are working with, the cabinet in the county, to see women in a different manner, to see them as leaders, to see them as deserving, And we actually, with this bill, we are going to mainstream gender in every department because it touches on agriculture, a woman in agriculture, in water, in every sector. And it's not saying just women, it is saying an inclusive kind of leadership. It is inclusive kind of an environment where women can fit in as the same way men are fitting in.
Right.
So our aim is to bring people to understand that everything should be inclusive and women should be involved. You find that even the water sector that is touching on women very seriously because a woman with water you cannot separate. When there is lack of water, a man can even go for 2-3 days without bathing, but not a woman. A woman cannot live even a day without using water. So when she's not involved in the issues of water, then we are looking out women and we are not appreciating that they deserve. So when we call, for example, a meeting for women, a meeting for water, you find that men come more than women for that meeting and they make decisions. Whereas in the real scenario, women should be more and the decisions should even come from them because they are the main user of water. Yeah.
Wow, very good perspectives there, Gladys. And Mutua, let me also again bring you into this particular conversation. I know we've talked about matters to do with election, and later on we'll talk about the theme because we're talking about women and the importance of technology and digital awareness. That is very critical. But let's look at issues to do with domestic violence, issues to do with sexual assault. It's like this is still a menace that is still affecting thousands and thousands of women in the country. What is it that needs to be done?
It is true. It's quite unfortunate because you find like a country like Kenya, I think you saw the other day like we are top 3 in terms of sexual gender-based violence. And also we are very much top in terms of issues of HIV and AIDS infection among teenagers. That's why we are talking about nowadays the triple threats. Ending sexual gender-based violence, ending teenage HIV and AIDS infections, and also such issues. So in fact, it's quite unfortunate that in this era we are talking about that, and it's quite unfortunate that Nakuru is among the top five counties being affected by the triple threats. It's quite unfortunate, and it affects more women. Because when we talk about the triple threats, we know that women and girls are more affected, and it's quite unfortunate being in such a situation because you find that we have a generation that is at risk. Because when we talk about our young girls being defiled and all with the increase in defilement cases, rape cases, and the rest that affect women, now it brings other complications like the issue of HIV infection and the rest, which is quite unfortunate. And it's the high time we have a very sober conversation because it's quite unfortunate that most men who commit such crimes like rape, defilement, they are known. And the society has not been taking its active role in terms of case reporting. Because like for Hope in Life, we work with teenage mothers. So many of them, and we can only work with a few. But you find the most unfortunate thing that the ones who committed such crimes, they are known by the society, but nobody is willing to come out and help the survivors access justice. And also, you know that the issues of rape and defilement or sexual violence are cycle. If we don't break this cycle, it will be repeated and again and again. And that's why we find that most of the perpetrators are repeat offenders. They do it again and again and again. So I think it's quite unfortunate. We are there as a country, and we need to be more active, proactive as civil society organizations, as a church, because I normally say that religious sector commands masses, like the churches and the rest. So it's the high time we join hands and close the tap on matters triple threats. So it's quite unfortunate, whereby, you know, Nakuru is known for very good reasons, but currently we've also been known for bad reasons, like the issue of the triple threats being among the top counties, which never happened before. So I think it's something that we need to join hands no single identity can be able to address the triple threats and the rest. We need to join hands and ensure that we bring this to a close.
Absolutely. Gladys, when we mark this particular day, I think as Mutua puts it, it's like there are these challenges that are still derailing the achievements in relation to the place of a woman in the society, talking about issues with the domestic gender-based violence, sexual assault. And of course, we have the laws that have been enacted. So where is the missing link?
The missing link, in as far as GPV is concerned, is that there is no proper laws and regulations that guide, and that support or enforce the curb of the menace. So you find that the culture is still in a way that a man has power over the woman and can do anything that he feels like in most cases. So that is where GPV is still rampant, because the men have not come to accept that women are as equal as they are. Women deserve better. So I think I usually say the day we'll stop dowry giving is the day maybe we'll reduce these issues of GPV. Because this is somebody who has come from their home to join another home. The man has been subjected to very harsh, maybe, demands as in form of dowry. And so when you bring me to your house, I'm absolutely your property. Okay. So you can do anything with your property, actually. But we are trying to make them understand that even if you did the exchange of dowry with a woman, when she comes to your house, she deserves better. She's your supporter and not your property, and you need to live together in harmony. So the economic hardships also play a big role in terms of GPV, because since Corona time we have seen many cases of violence, even murder on gender, and I feel something should be done on the laws. Something should be done on the economy. Something should be done on drugs and substance abuse, because it's on the rise, and all those things now participate or contribute to the domestic violence.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I want our director to also give us a segment where our reporter, that is Vincent Kimutai, was in the streets, also to get the comments and the views and the perspectives of Kenyans in relation to the International Women's Day. Let's get those particular views, then we'll still continue with our conversation with our guest.
Shukran sana Mangicho Mola pamoja na Paul Kagi, na kama ambavyo mmeweza kuelezea hapo upande wa pili wa studio ni kwamba siku ya leo ulimwengu unaadhimisha siku ya wanawake na wasichana, ambapo mataifa mbalimbali yanatambua mchango wa wanawake pamoja na wasichana katika jamii na taifa kwa ujumla. Pia katika siku hii ya leo ulimwengu utakuwa ukitambua changamoto na kutafuta suluhu ya changamoto hizo ambazo wanawake wanapitia katika jamii. Lakini hata hivyo maadhimisho yanafanyika hapa nchini kukiwa bado kuna changamoto chungu nzima ambazo wanawake pamoja na wasichana wanapitia. Na hapa hivi nitakuwa nikizungumza pamoja na Wakenya, haswa wanawake, kuhusiana na changamoto ambazo wanapitia na nini ambacho wanataka serikali kaweze kuifanya ili kuweza kutatua changamoto ambazo wanapitia.
Mimi kenye ningependa kusema kuhusu hii siku ya wanawake ni serikali ione vile inaweza tusaidia. Isaidia wasichana wetu wadogo wadogo na sodo. Unajua kuna kitu mbaya kama mtoto anatumia sodo moja anaosha tena anaweka. Pia ningependa serikali tusaidie sisi wenye sisi masingle mothers. Itupatie kitu kidogo tuweze kuinua biashara.
Tunaomba pia serikali iplay a part, itusaidie. Ukiangalia tunafungua biashara ndogo ndogo, hata kuuza switi, kuuza mayai, kuuza nini. Tunaomba pia hiyo serikali itusaidie kupanua biashara zetu. Na ili tuweze kuendelea kama wanawake na tukue na nguvu kama wanawake. Cause kama mimi sasa nimejaribu kuchukua hiyo women's fund, lakini saa zote inaniambia it cannot be processed. Yeah? Sasa mimi inanisaidia na nini saa hizi? Hakuna, inaniambia it cannot be processed. Saa zote najaribu it cannot be processed. Hainisaidii. Na pia hata kama inawezekana kwa wengine, wacha kutupatia hii pesa ndogo ndogo yenye hizi tusaidia. Yeah? Kwa ukiangalia kama saa hii uchumi imeshuka sana. 1,000 hakuna kitu itakusaidia, 2,000 hakuna kitu itakusaidia. Wakupatie pesa ya maana yenye at least utaweza kujiwekea biashara yako, ndio hiyo biashara itakuwezesha kulipa pia nini? Kulipa ile loan.
Kwa majina nafahamika kama Susile Wamboi. Nimetoka tu hapa Nakuru, lakini nimelelewa Nyahururu. Kitu wa kwanza ningesema, wasichana wenyewe huwa anakuwa na challenge mingi sana. Utapata mwanafunzi msichana ako darasa, lakini hiyo nini sanitalitoe lana. Lakini utapata cha kushangaza ni kuwa akienda kwa mzazi mwenyewe atamwambia hana. Sasa utapata ndio utapata msichana anatafuta bwana mapema sana hata akiwa shule, kwa sababu anajua kienda alilie mvulana ama huyo boyfriend yake ama nani atampe. Sasa utapata kuna mzazi hata ana shughuli na mtoto amwambie mama sina hii na ninahitaji, anamwambia enda ukajiuze ukapate pesa. Utapata mwanafunzi ashakufa moyo, na ndio unapata mzazi mwanafunzi hata atambui mamake kama mzazi. Juu utapata huyo mwanafunzi huyo tu anaenda kwa babake, na kuna kitu mbaya kama hiyo kwenda kuitisha mzee.
Sasa wito wako ni upi kwa serikali?
Mimi wito wangu kwa serikali ni at least wanaweka pesa kando juu ya wasichana sana. Juu msichana akiwa na hiyo sodo ataweza kusoma juu anasikia ako free. Yani ako comfortable hadi darasa. Juu kuna wengi wawezi kwenda shule juu ya kukosa hizo vitu. Inabidi unakaa nyumbani. Let's say kuna siku tuliona news, msichana anajaribu kutumia hii kitu ya ng'ombe, hii ngozi ya ng'ombe. Ni venye amejaribu kutafuta yenyewe amekosa. So unaona?
Sisi kwanza kama wamama tuko na changamoto nyingi sana, kwa sababu mambo mpaka ya kutafuta imekuwa gumu. Alafu ukienda kwa duka kununua vitu unakuta zote ziko juu. Sasa unachanganyikiwa, unashindwa mpaka nianje. Sasa tumeona maisha imekuwa magumu sana, hata hatujui miaka ingine ikikuja itakuwa aje. Kwa hivyo kama sisi wa mama tushughulikiwe na hiyo mambo.
I think the government should just improve. Na pia wakipu ile hadi yao walisema kwa kina mama. Unajua ukiahidi mtu kitu, yafaa umfanyie. Kwa sababu usipomfanyia atasikia uchungu milele mpaka siku ile utafanya. Kwanza kina mama usijaribu kudanganya. Mwambie mama ukweli, kama hautampatia mwambie hauna. Mali angaangalia sana ni mali alisema atasaidia watu wote. Ile 50 billion imesaidia watu wangapi? Wacha na hiyo hasla imetoa pesa kidogo sana, 500. Sasa hii nimetoka na hapo nimenunua credit mission. Itafanya biashara gani ya njugu? Kwa hivyo akina mama wapewe tu nafasi zao, wafanye kazi kama wanaume wafanye.
Okay, kwa majina naitwa Esther. Changamoto za mama ni mingi, especially kama saizi maisha imekuwa hard. Mambo imepanda sana. Kama sisi uko labda na watoto shule, bei ya unga pia imeenda juu sana. Mambo imekuwa very tough, but kitu yenye naweza omba maybe government tusaidie ni watu angushie kitu kama unga bei juu. Naona kama saizi ya kunyeshi na boga pia zimekuwa hakuna, so unapata unanunua unga bei kali na boga zenyewe pia hakuna. Sasa unapata hata watoto kwa nyumba hawashibi. Asubuhi labda unawapikia, unapata kuna changamoto ni mingi. Sijui hata niseme nini. Yes. Kitu najua ni ati wamama wanaweza fanya vizuri zaidi kwa sababu wanaelewa shida zetu wa mama na wanaelewa mambo mingi zaidi. So pia ningesuggest ingekuwa vizuri kama every county kunaweza kuwa na wamama hata wenye wako chini, wako juu wanatetea wale wako chini.
Kama mtoto waesi akafaidika na hizi vitu kama tutile hata manguo, shuleni kutosoma vizuri, pia inachangia hata mtoto kupotea. Juu wakati labda kama saa hizi maisha imekuwa mazito, mtoto akose awe anakosa fedha ya kwenda shuleni. Unapata saa ingine ameingilia kuolewa kwa haraka. Na hata kado na kuolewa kwa haraka, saa ingine anadanganywa na vijana. Anapewa shilingi 50 hata kabau. Hiyo inachangia huyo mtoto kupata mimba kwa haraka na anashindwa kushongeza masomo yake. So mambo kama hayo ni vizuri watoto waangaliwe, hasa ile ningesema hasa kwanza kwa serikali saa hizi waangalie ili watoto wote waweze kusoma.
Kabla ya serikali, sisi wa mama tunastahili kukaa karibu na watoto na kuwaonyesha. Unajua serikali na inarudingi after mzazi. So mzazi ndio wa kwanza kabisa, alafu serikali ndio ifuate, alafu tena shule. Mimi mwito wangu ningesema kwa upande wa watoto wanapoenda shule, wasichana waangaliwe kama ni hizi vitu za kutumia. Shule zote ziwe zinaangaliwa, watoto wanaangaliwa, wasichana. Sababu ujue mzazi, mtoto msichana ni mzazi wa kesho. So asipoangaliwa vizuri, hatuna nini tena, inaisha. So kitu ya kwanza ningeomba serikali iangalie sana sana wakina mama. Wakina mama ndio kila kitu. So mimi sina mengi, na serikali iangalie venye maisha iko. Maisha ndio inafanya wasichana wetu wawe wakitembea usiku, kitembea huku utawapatana nao wanadanganywa hivyo tu. Unakuta sasa maisha imekuwa mbaya zaidi. So serikali hapo waangalie kabisa na washikilie.
Hayo ni maoni ya Wakenya kuhusiana na siku hii ya wanawake duniani, ambapo tumeona kuwa wengi wanasema kuna mengi ambayo serikali inapaswa kufanya ili kuweza kutatua changamoto ambazo wanawake na wasichana wanapitia. Siku hii ya tarehe 8 mwezi Machi, Umoja wa Mataifa huadhimisha siku hii katika kutafuta changamoto ambazo wanawake hupitia kote ulimwenguni. Siku hii imeadhimishwa sasa kwa karne moja hadi kufikia sasa. Na tumeona kuwa changamoto ambazo wanawake wamekuwa wakipitia imekuwa kitafutwa na kuhakikisha kuwa kuna haki katika jamii pamoja na mataifa mbalimbali. Mangicho nitarejesha usukani kwenyu kuendelea na mjadala kuhusiana na siku hii ya wanawake duniani. Mimi ni Vincent Kimutai nikiripotia Mid Morning Park, MBCI TV.
Yeah, that is our reporter Vincent Kimtai and the entire crew of the Mid Morning Park. And they have talked to Kenyans outside there in the streets. Gladys and Mutua, you've heard what the women are saying. And let me just speak on this particular area, Gladys. I know this is a national issue, but even as we celebrate this particular day, I think this is a very sad story that a very, very large percent of the women that have been interviewed are still saying the issue of sanitary towels is still a menace. Should we even actually be addressing this particular factor in this negative scenario?
Well, we shouldn't. It should be a story of the past. But unfortunately, we are still on it. I have really tried to talk about this issue of sanitary in forums. We were having a meeting with national gender, or state gender and national gender last week. And I really brought this issue up because it is now getting worse than before. Because before, at least the government used to provide. You go to schools, you find girls are given sanitary from school. But for the last almost 3 years, they have never received any sanitary at all. So now, as a gender officer, I get cases, so many cases of girls dropping out of school, girls getting into commercial sex in exchange of sanitary. And it's a really bad situation. So I actually get, hardly can I get a day pass without somebody coming to my office to ask for sanitary. So in that meeting where we were with the National Gender Department, I asked them what happened. And they told me now the Education Department did not manage the sanitary issue well, and it is being taken back to gender Department. and it's going to take effect from July, this coming July. And I'm really, really welcoming that because when it comes to now national gender taking over, then it will trickle down to the county
It will
gender.
trickle down to the county
Yes.
government. Cosmos, before I come back to Gladys, listening to those kind of sentiments coming from the civil society, and I think it might not really sound very good that every year when we are celebrating International Women's Day, such an issue is still something that has not yet been actually attended to.
Yeah, this is quite unfortunate because now we have issues of menstrual health policy that was stating that every vulnerable woman and girl should access the sanitary pads.
Yeah.
As an organization, we'll be mobilizing so many sanitary pads through the dignity packs, and we give to girls, but we can only do a few. And you know the work of civil society is to complement the government. So we've been doing a lot of advocacy to the county and the national government to ensure that as they do budgeting, they also factor in the issue of menstrual health. Because we cannot continue in this century talking about a lack of sanitary pads. It's quite unfortunate every time, as a chief officer has said, I also get so many calls, even from government officers, that there's a certain area, there's a school that the girls need sanitary pads. It's quite unfortunate. The other thing we're also doing in terms of sustainability, I talk to parents, like when I go to schools, and we tell the parents that as they budget for other items, they should also factor sanitary pads for the girls. As part of the budget, as they buy the shopping and the rest, that should become as a necessity because that's a necessity. You know, that's a call for nature. So I think it's something quite unfortunate, but hope is not lost because most of our girls are getting lured into issues of sex because of the pads. So I think it's something that we need to pick up. We are doing a lot of advocacy as civil society, and we are complimenting the government because every time we mobilize them, even the menstrual cups, that I might talk about them later, because like one menstrual cup goes for 8 to 10 years, just one. It's more sustainable. So we are looking at different ways as civil society on how we can help bridge this gap in terms of menstrual health. Thank you.
Okay, I know I want to release you because you're going for that particular function, but maybe briefly, Gladys, so we're not talking about the theme for this year, matters to do with digital and also technology as far as the woman is concerned when you're celebrating this day. What particular issues do you want to be realized?
Okay, I want to say that the theme is really in order because this particular time in life, women should be doing international businesses. They should be trading in other countries. They should be trading in other parts of the country. And so when we go digital, especially for women entrepreneurs, then it is really going to boost the businesses of women, the life of a woman.
What specific strategies, what specific measures now need to be put into place to ensure that they get into the digital world?
Well, we are partnering with APSA Kenya, like for example, of the bank, that is having a very, they have a product for women that they exchange businesses using a mobile phone. We have women now using their mobile in terms of asking for goods and paying through the phone. We have researches done on internet rather than before when you used to do a lot of hardship. We have businesses that are done also online. And we want to encourage women. Today we are just encouraging them that now you don't need to go to Nairobi. You only need to call somebody, identify, then you exchange.
Then you exchange.
Yes.
Unfortunately, our time is so much spent, but in 30 seconds, Mutua, the issue to do with digital and technology, just in 30 seconds, and how this is going to boost the place of women.
Yeah, I think that is quite vital because you find initially woman has been taken to somebody who has to stay in the house, do things. They can still take care of family matters and they do business because as Madam has said, the chief officer is that they can use their phones to buy goods, sell. We've seen you women doing some content even in terms of good music and good programs, recording. Because so we have negative use of technology, but we'll talk about the positive use. So we have seen people creating content digitally and selling the content. So I think that's a way to go, that because we are living in a time when women and men have to provide. We have to complement each other in a family. And maybe because I know time is really up, is that there was a time that Wangari Maathai was so much into issues of forest and conservation. And one of the former presidents asked about, what does a woman know about forest? Wangari said that, Mr. President, the issue at hand does not concern the anatomy below the belt, but a sound mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bwana Cosmos Mutua, the director, Hope in Life. It's been a pleasure having you today in this particular forum, and also Gladys Kamren, the Chief Officer, matters to do with the gender and social services in the county government of Nakuru. Thank you so much for making time and even to help us look at the places of a woman and the achievements, the challenges, and where we need to go, even as we mark this particular day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We want to take another short break, but you're coming back with Paul Kagi. We want to look into the independence of our institutions, or the independence of public institutions, but we'll still take your opinions and your perspectives and also your highlights on our conversation on the International Women's Day when we come back from this short break.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Mimi ni moto wa kotea mbali, kwa kizungu utasemaje?
I fire of eating fire.
Mimi ni moto wa kotea mbali, kwa kizungu utasemaje?
I am fire of warming fire.
I paid for your school fees to go and learn. Na women rep wa county ya Narok anaitwa nani?
Abirecho Shebesh.
Go and sit down. Women rep wa Narok anaitwa nani?
Sholei.
Sholei. Tusaidie, women rep wa Narok anaitwa nani?
Ulenti mama.
Women rep wa Narok anaitwa nani?
Anwa Iguru. Bom.
Never know. I do it. No. I saw what hit by an orders. Hadasa dadamu, tafute Mungu, utayashinda. Hadasa. Waridi jangwani.
Pibs Technical College, mwamba wa ubingwa, wimbi la ujasiri limetanda Pibs. Ulifuzu kidato cha 4, jisajili leo, intake inaendelea. Utapokea mafunzo ya juu katika mitindo ya kisasa, hair and beauty, School of Hospitality, Tourism and Foreign Languages, Journalism, Automotive Engineering, Electrical Installation and Plumbing, IT na ICDL, Fashion and Design. Tutembelee Nakuru Sokoni Plaza, Limuru, Kiambu, Thika, Githurai 45. Tupigie simu nambari 0706212101.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Yeah, thank you so much. You are still having us right here on the Mid-Morning Park. We've had our two guests looking at this particular subject on the International Women's Day. And also, Kagi, I know you are following up on this particular conversation.
Yes.
And even as we mark this particular day, looking at the highlights, looking at the achievements that have been made, but still seems we still have a long way to go to ensure that the modern woman realizes some of the issues that they need actually to have in their lives.
Very true, and I have said earlier that we need to work more on empowering our women.
Yes.
Especially on the lower cadre, we need to empower our women.
Sure.
Because we're having a challenge of supporting the two-third gender rule, especially within our political class. And also, if you look at on our lower level, many women's rights are being violated day in, day out. And we have many organizations which are looking on this matter, but sometimes the effect is not as expected. We need to have maybe what I would call the goodwill from the political class to be able to support this journey. You know, some of these things, they need some legislation in Parliament.
Actually, like you've said, and I think that is the point that even our guest had touched on, it's now not a matter of the issues to do maybe with laws being passed, because we already have all these laws. We talk about maybe gender-based violence, laws to do with that, sexual violence, laws to do with that. So all these laws are in place, but now I think we need to change the narrative.
Yes.
There is a very, very major significance to look into how can we now begin to talk, how can we now begin to have conversation with all stakeholders. Okay, talking about every other person now being actually brought into the conversation so that we can actually be able to see that some of these things are looked into. And we've talked about issues to do with the sanitary pads.
Yes.
Okay, that the interview that, or the vox pop that our reporter Vincent Kimtai did in the streets, virtually all women were saying that this is still a menace, it's still a thorn in the flesh in the 21st century. And I think this is something that either there is somebody somewhere who doesn't want to see this particular issue being addressed so that maybe they can continue to, maybe out of their own selfish interests.
Yeah.
Because I'm just wondering, what would it take or what would it cost if this was a scenario, if this was an issue that the entire government, all those stakeholders can actually come together and say, for once and all, we need to fix this particular issue.
And that's why I'm talking about the women on the villages, because they're the ones who are really suffering. For example, we talk about the sanitary pads. Many people who are vying for MCAs, especially for women and members of parliament, one of the major things they really promise is to provide sanitary pads to our children in primary school. But you see, once they are elected, it no longer becomes an issue. You see, everybody, if you look at our papers, our news, every member of parliament is concerned with bursary. Nothing else. So if you tell them to divert their money towards helping our young girls to get sanitary pads, they don't see the ripple effect of what they want to do. So I think if our leaders may not be able to come and help such areas, we can even pass more laws to be able to declare some things to be mandatory.
Sure.
To our children.
I think this is something that the government needs to look into. And of course, we continue to wish you a happy International Women's Day. And there are quite a number of people who are saying they are watching us. We have Loving Lydia watching from Canada. We have Agnes Blessings watching from Nairobi. We also have Brian Saitoti watching from Narok Town. Robinson Obiero watching us from Tarbo. We have Sarah Kamau. Omwaturi Vincent, happy Mother's Day to all responsible mothers in the world. We also have one here known as Duncan Josephat saying happy International Women's Day. And we also have one, Janet Kosgei, saying truly the issue of women needs to be addressed to ensure that they get their deserved place in the society. Thank you so much for those good comments. I know there's still a lot, and you're still marking this particular day. The celebrations are being held in different places in our different counties across the country, and of course also across the world. But there is this other topic that Kage, we had highlighted that we are going to look into, and this is the independence of public institutions.
Correct.
Are they independent in word and deed, or are they just independents? And this is actually being occasioned by the story that has made headlines today in our dailies, the issue to do with the controller of budget. And this is a revelation that she made yesterday in one of the committees in Parliament, that she was actually compelled to release, or actually to sign the release of 15 billion Kenya shillings.
Yes.
Just a few days to the election.
And
it's like part of this particular money cannot actually be accounted for. Yeah.
And Dr. Margaret Nyakango's revelation yesterday reminded me of many years back, I think 2002, after Moi exit. There were many revelations like these ones. And I think even though she says that she was being pushed to be able to make this payment without being okayed by the parliament, I think we should learn. During Moi's regime, there were many people who came out saying that I was called by the president to do this, to do that, to do that, and it could not help them, because as a person who is in charge of an institution, you are supposed to be, one, responsible. Number two, you're supposed to follow the due law, because of course you know what you're supposed to do. Because even if they say they were pushed by the Yatani, the president, blah, blah, you see, what about the independence of that body? When you're given that position, even though we have pressure, we have seen many people who say, I don't want that job. I remember Professor PLO Lumumba one time. He was the chairman of the EAC, the Anti-Corruption Body.
Ethics Anti-Corruption Commission.
And he knew the independence of this body from the word go. You see? And when he started doing this job, he was pushed hard not to follow some cases. And he stood on his ground. If you are not going to allow me to do my job, then I can leave this job.
Exactly.
And true to his word, he left that job. I feel it is we who make these bodies not to be independent.
Yeah, I think I concur with you, because, and I think Kenyans in their own wisdom wanted these particular institutions to be independent, because they already knew or they already envisaged a situation whereby maybe those who are in the executive, or maybe even those who are in parliament, those who are in those institutions that maybe are considered or perceived to have that kind of power, to be able maybe to influence a particular way in which maybe things needs to be done, or even influence particular people. So that is why I think Kenyans in their own wisdom and wanted these particular issues to be looked into into the constitution, and made it very clear that some of these institutions should be independent. And that basically means that the activities they are going to have, the duties that they're going to have, the functions that they are going to undertake, they should not be, or they should not actually have any kind, or they should not actually be subjected into some pressure, into being compelled by a particular person. So in a scenario like this, because this is something that maybe most Kenyans didn't know, and we had even the other day the Deputy President, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, mentioning, or actually saying in the public that he's going to mention some people who in the previous government, quote unquote, went away with some money. So I think where we are in this particular scenario, because this is something that is going to be, it's like the way this particular story has been looked into, it's like there is some money that has been lost, because 5 days maybe to the elections, and maybe one would want to find out what is it that, or what kind of pressure was it, so that this particular amount of money would be released. What are some of these projects that were supposed to be implemented in the 5 days?
3 minutes was due, how many days to elections? And you know, there's a law that governs the management of public funds. There's a way you should not be able to, I would say, those who control maybe the finances, the Ministry of Finance, the control of budget, everybody. There's a time you're not supposed to release any finances to facilitate anything, some few months to the election. And therefore, when this matter is coming up right now, it is raising questions, right? You know, a controller of a budget is a very, very senior person in the management of our finances in this country. And if a controller of budget can be able to be influenced by an SMS, a WhatsApp, even a call. It's very wanting, you know. And I remember one day, I think either Mutunga or Maraga, one of them said when Kibaki was leaving office that it's very interesting that in my office,
yes,
I never, there's a phone that is in his office, which is linked directly, I think, to the State House. And he was saying that there was no any other time I received a call from this phone.
Yes.
That means he was led to do his job without any interference from the president.
Sure. And that has actually reminded me in the election, the 2017 election.
Yes.
When we had the ruling by the Supreme Court, led by David Maraga, the then Chief Justice.
Yes.
To actually turn to actually do away, or to actually to dismiss the election and the victory of the then President Uhuru Kenyatta. And I remember the then president, and also the current president, back then he was the deputy president. I remember they were very angry with that kind of a ruling.
Yes, very much.
And they actually even made very, very harsh remarks in regards to the then Chief Justice. But he stood his ground. Okay. So I think the essence of these particular institutions, like also the Supreme Court, this is very important for them to ensure that they do what is right, to ensure that they are not going, because back then, that is something that quite a number of Kenyans were happy, okay? Even if maybe there is some fear, okay, there is some backlash, but I think the Constitution, there is a way in which the Constitution will actually save you. There is a way in which the Constitution will protect you.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the person who is sitting on that office. We talk about Maraga, who was a CJ, and he made his ruling regarding to elections as Maraga. You see, it reminds me of offices like the office of DCI, which should be an independent office, which run independently without any external influence. We have offices like EACC. We don't expect EACC to work under any influence. And I feel it depends on the person who has been given authority in that office.
Right.
Even Parliament is an independent institution. Judiciary itself is an independent institution. And therefore, it's good to, the reason why we have all these institutions, Mangicho, this time, is to bring a lot of flow in our constitution, to avoid conflict of interests in our operations. And if we allow those external influence, then we are going to lose everything that we have.
Actually, when you've talked about the DCI and also the office of the DPP, because there have also been a lot of Kenyans who have been angered. There have been a lot of disappointment. There are people who are implicated in cases. Some of these cases have to do with corruption. Some of these cases have to do with graft. And they had been charged last year, just towards the end of August. But then, when now the new government has come in, all those charges have been dropped. And so people have been wondering, how is it possible that virtually all these people and all the charges that were made have been dropped? Does it mean that these particular cases really had no any weight? Does it mean that somebody somewhere was not doing the right job? So it also shows that, is it in a particular way that these particular institutions are not independent as they ought to be? Yeah, and it's good to speak the truth. Sometimes these institutions are being influenced, especially whereby we need to achieve something like a political mileage, or maybe there's a political agenda we want to achieve. You find sometimes these bodies or these institutions are being influenced from outside. And we have to work with our constitution. Our constitution is very bright in terms of the way it is being crafted. What is challenging us is our constitution must be followed to the letter. But again, are we ready to follow this constitution to the letter? The person who is in charge of that office, is that person ready to follow that constitution into a letter? On the other hand, the person who is on the other side of the game, is he or she ready to respect the other institution? Because you can be in the office and you want to do your job,
But then the other guys from the other side of,
Sure,
of the
sure.
fence, they want to make sure that they influence you on what you do.
Exactly.
You
So
see?
it behoves each and every particular person, regardless maybe of the particular office you are holding. So it also behoves those who are in the executive, because when you hear some pressures like these ones, the control of budget saying that the treasurer, back then the minister for finance, Ukur Yatani, was pressuring her. And actually, Ukur Yatani was also using the name of the former president. Okay. So it really shows that there is something that is wrong. And maybe this is something now that we are actually going to see. Maybe this is a particular now story that is going to unfold. We are imagining that right now we are going to begin, or there is maybe something that we'll have to do with maybe the then minister being summoned to actually explain what is it that was actually happening then. So it is a scenario whereby those who are actually in the independent institutions, they need to know what is it that, and maybe sometimes they have to pay maybe with their lives, they have to pay maybe with their jobs.
Correct.
Because maybe in a situation like this, if I'm just trying to wonder, I'm just trying to ask myself, so what would have happened if she declined, okay, or if she refused to sign this particular, or the release of this particular amount of money? Okay?
Of course, there could be some intimidations, some threats to be able to cede ground on this matter. There must have been some great pressure.
So what we are actually saying in essence is that even as we try as a country, even as we try as a society to establish or actually to come up with these independent institutions, but then where is the goodwill? Okay. If, for example, we're talking also the political goodwill. Why is the political goodwill? We should not just say that we are having independent bodies. If we really don't have, okay, that need, if we don't have that good will to ensure that we support them so that they can actually do the work that they're supposed to do.
And I think also we can be able to redo our laws to be able to give more power and strength to our offices. For example, the Office of Controller Budget. If this is a scenario that a controller of a budget can be influenced, as she is saying, by SMS or maybe WhatsApp, then we need to adjust our laws to be able to give the controller of budget more control over our finances. But you see, where do we make our laws? That is in Parliament. And my worry is, Mangicho, if maybe those in authority use these institutions to achieve a certain agenda, to help them to be able to move on. If it has been happening, then it will not be possible to pass those laws. If you can be able to use the control of budget to adjust something, why should you pass laws?
Sure.
You are tying your hands.
Exactly.
They cannot allow you to pass those laws.
They cannot be allowed.
If you can be able to use the DCI to be able to propel them to do something, to be able to do something that you want to do, why should we do some laws that is going to tie your hands to be able to influence the DCI, ESCC, as you said, DPP, you know, all those things. And therefore, our challenge is on how to give more power to these institutions, to give them more freedom to do their jobs, which I think will be lacking if members of parliament, who are called the lawmakers, are not going to support this challenge. And I think by the revelations of the controller of budget, it is enough for Parliament, because they called her yesterday, I think so. It's good for them to go back and see now, because we have this revelation from Dr. Margaret. What are you going to do to avoid such a scenario being repeated tomorrow? But if you leave it in open, what happens tomorrow?
Exactly.
We will go back to the same thing.
Because this is like a scenario that is repetitive. Maybe we've seen it maybe in the past two regimes. So what would prevent such a phenomenon not actually taking place in the current regime? So even in as much as we want to find out where maybe this money went, or how this particular money was used, and if in any particular way there was misappropriation, if in any particular way this particular money we find that maybe, if we could use actually the word stolen, those who are culpable, those who are culprit should actually be brought into book. But more importantly is where we are at the moment, and to avoid such a scenario, because how sure are we because I remember in a case whereby we had the former police boss in Nakuru who actually just ensured that he implemented a court order.
Yes.
But as we speak today, he was actually transferred from Nakuru. Why? Because of following a particular order. And this is the current regime that has done this. So I think this is a matter that is very critical. This is something that we really need to look into, because we have these independent institutions. They should not just be independent just by being mentioning that they are actually independent. Let's see them carrying their duties. Let's see them, and let's see every other stakeholder actually giving them the support that they need. Because at the end of the day, if they don't function well, if they don't function appropriately, then it is us as a country that we're going to suffer.
Yeah, not only in the matters of finances, but also in the matters of our leadership. We need to empower our institutions, the legislature, judiciary, and executive, those bodies to be independent in their operations. Like yesterday, there was an issue that erupted at Senate, whereby the Speaker of Senate, Amason Kingi, was being accused because the Azimio side has really removed Fatuma. Is it Fatuma Dulo?
Yes.
Yes, to be the...
Was a minority chief?
Yes,
chief whip?
yeah, because of associating herself with the other political class.
Sure.
And this side of political class is accusing the Senate, particularly the Speaker, for not being independent and being partisan. Yeah, because they're saying Kingi should not be partisan. He should be independent as a Speaker of a Senate.
Exactly.
If a political party makes a decision to change committee members, for example, they are changing Fatuma to Olekina to become the leader, the minority leader or something.
Yeah, that's something that should be fast-tracked. Okay?
Exactly.
Because this is actually coming from the political party. I mean, you cannot interfere with them so long as whatever is it that they've done is within their rights. Okay, whatever is it that they've done, that is something that they believe is good for them as a political party.
Yes, because if a political party is not happy with you to represent them in a committee in parliament, it's very clear that a party sit down and says, no, this MP is not helping us as a party, you change the position. And therefore, this independence is what we are talking about. That Speaker of a National Assembly or the Speaker of a Senate, even when they are running their proceedings, they should portray a little bit of independence in the matters of parliament. Otherwise, if parliament is going to be influenced to make some decisions, which has happened before, then we lose the independence of our parliament. I could see that some headline yesterday that the parliament is slowly losing its independence.
And of course, actually what you've mentioned is very interesting, because there has been talk that the current regime or the current government is actually trying as much as possible to make sure that it has majority of MPs, so that whenever it wants maybe to pass a particular law in both houses, it can be as simple as done. So, and this is actually wrong, because I remember just after the election, actually the MPs who are actually in the opposition, even others who are perceived to be in the opposition, there was a very, very great number, but most of them have now run away. And I think this is something that we've actually even been talking with some of the political analysts, because we've wanted to find out, how do you benefit as a member of parliament, maybe when you are pro-government? Okay? Is there any, is it an offense to be in the opposition? Okay? Because it's, if all of them are running actually towards the government, so does it mean that if you're not in tune with the government, does it mean that there's some goodies that you're not going to have? Whereas we know that it is legal, okay? Or it is the right of every particular maybe member of parliament to actually get what they need to get.
And that is where now comes again independence over another body called the Registrar of Political Parties, you know, or the Political Parties Act. You know, there's a body that deals with political parties. If a member moves from this party to the other one, or maybe shift from this party to the other one, or maybe pays allegiance to another party, what happens? It is very clear. But if you look at since last term, we had a problem with our political parties. Whereby people are moving the way they want, and the law is very clear. But the office of the Registrar of Political Parties, even though it is there, somehow the office seems not to be very independent. It's like this office receives some maybe orders from another quarters. And even today, I think it's the same thing, because members of parliament are trooping from this direction to the other one.
Yeah.
And the registrar of political parties can do nothing about it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Someone has shifted from his party, which sponsored him to parliament, moves to the other one, leaves the party, and then things are moving normally. What is that showing us?
Exactly. There is a lot of what we can actually say hidden interest, and there is a lot of, I think, interference. Okay, and this interference, I think, this is something that really needs to be looked into. This is something that really needs to be attended to, because when we don't have organizations, when we don't have institutions that can actually pay allegiance to the oath that they took of being independent, then and actually these institutions, remember, they are being taxed. I mean, they're actually being funded by the Kenyan taxpayers. Most of these people, most of these individuals in some of these institutions, they are actually paid hefty sum of money. Okay, and why? For the very, very reason that they need to give service to Kenyans. They need to ensure that whatever it is that they were appointed for in those particular institutions, they actually ensure that they function properly. I think where we've reached, like we've said, we need to see people, for example, like Dr. Nyakang. If there is anybody, if there is any individual who is holding a public institution that is supposed to be independent, let them, even when they are pressured, let's say those names, let's see them saying that I was pressured to do this particular issue, but I didn't, because deep down I was convicted that it is not the right thing to do. And I think Kenyans will remember them for that.
Yeah, and we should learn a good lesson from this issue of the control of the budget. It reminds me of many scenarios whereby we had some cases which were going on with the EACC and the DPP regarding to some senior government officers who are claiming they made some payments or they did some contracts or signed something out of a call from the minister.
Okay.
All right? And when you see the minister called you to do something, the problem is you have to prove what you're saying. If you don't have a proof, then you are going to carry the burden.
Yes.
All right? And therefore, I feel personally, we need to make this one to be a good lesson to every public officer.
Yeah, and actually, because again, something else that I know people will also be looking into, and the selection panel for recruiting the fresh commissioners and the chairman of IBC has already declared that those who want to send applications to be the chairman
and the commissioners,
and the commissioners, I think now that particular door is opened. Now, I think this is something, again, that Kenyans will want to find out, okay? Because when we are in that particular stage whereby we have now maybe openings like these ones, those who are actually maybe brought into place, or those who are actually invited, and those who are actually even given, or those who actually merit for those particular positions. That is what they actually say, okay? But an organization or actually an institution like the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is a very major, it's a major institution, it's a major body in the country. So this, and that is why we are talking about things like this, that let's not just have Kenyans, or let's not just have individuals just going for these particular positions. I think this is an institution, this is actually a body that you need to have self-reflection. You need to even maybe talk to a number of people and check yourself, because it's like you are actually carrying the entire country. Whatever decision that you are doing, it's going to affect the entire country.
And I think if there is a body which has really experienced a lot of public scrutiny regarding to independence, is the election body, electoral body, IEBC, and not only in Kenya. I was listening to some guys from Nigeria. You know, they had election the other day, and one of their major concern was the independence of their electoral body. They were feeling this body is not independent.
And right now the opposition, or actually those who lost the elections, are actually calling for fresh elections.
Yes, I was trying to ask myself, I don't know, I don't come from Nigeria, but my layman understanding of how things are being done is that even though they are calling for the fresh elections, but they must be done following a certain law. You cannot just go to an office and tell them, now go and conduct a new election. You see? So I think we have an issue with our electoral bodies also, not only in Kenya, but also in Africa. Something must be done, right? You see, these guys are not going to, it's as if they don't want to go to not Supreme Court, the highest court in that land. You ask yourself why. I think when the observers were leaving, they had a meeting with them and told them the only way you can be able to pursue this matter, we advise you use the legal way.
And I remember even in Kenya, we had that kind of a scenario some years back, when those who would lose in an election would say, we don't need to go to the election to the courts because we already know that the courts are tainted. We already know the courts are actually favored, or the courts are actually maybe influenced, maybe to determine a particular ruling in a particular way. So it's a process. And this is very important for a country. This is very important for a society. It's a long process to ensure that the bodies that you've come up with, the institutions that you've come up with, can actually be independent. And it can only be very unfortunate that if we do that kind of a major process, or if we actually take into account the efforts that are actually taken into consideration, or the efforts that are actually put into place to ensure that these bodies are independent, only for them to quash that kind of an effort.
Yes, and I think, as I have just said earlier, we need to understand that these independent institutions, or these public institutions, also depends with the individual. And we can say Mangicho, we have taken some good strides regarding to making our institutions to be independent. We know there was a time, I was remembering in Parliament, we had a guy called Francis Ole Kaparo, who was from, I think was from Kanu side.
Sure.
He was elected to be the Speaker of National Assembly for 3 terms.
Consecutive terms.
Yes, and I remember people were fearing, because this guy was coming from the government side, he's going to work for government in Parliament. But I think Kaparo had a different agenda. He made sure that when he was in Parliament, he removed the cloth of, I think, Kanu, and he wore the cloth of being the Speaker of National Assembly.
Sure.
And for 3 consecutive terms as a Speaker of the National Assembly, you could not really see a picture of someone who came from the government side, and was being elected by members of Parliament from both sides, opposition and government, to become the Speaker.
Exactly.
You see also Marende.
Kenneth Marende.
Yes, did the same. And up to today, he is one of the most respected speakers of the National Assembly.
Right.
Because he came, I think he came when we had just joined.
When he had the
when we are
the coalition government.
Remember that time?
2007.
Yes,
you're right.
And he really did a good job as a Speaker of the National Assembly.
Those are the kind of individuals that we really need to have. I'm being told that we are pressed for time. But I think so much for today. Thank you so much, our viewer, for being with us, and also for following us, and also for your interaction during this particular conversation. And of course, we'll do it again next week at a time like this.
Yes, God willing, we want to thank you for following us today in our mid-morning pack. My name is Paul Kagi. Till next time, have a beautiful day ahead.
Thank you so much, and my name is Mangicho Mola. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.